You're joking, aren't you? It's the Teesside Chef. Oh, I've got something special for you here. Cherry Bakewell tart. And I guarantee 100% that this is better than Mr. Kipling's Cherry Bakewell tarts. I don't mean Mr. Kipling out of exceedingly good cakes, Mr. Kipling. I mean Jimmy Kipling from round our way. When he tried to make this, he left the gas on and blew his house up. Don't feel bad for the silly sausage, though. He's a massive racist. So hard luck, Jimmy, yeah? So I've already started with 200 grams of plain flour in me bowl here for the base, and I'm going to add 50 grams of caster sugar to that, and a good pinch of salt, and I'm going to blend all those dry ingredients up to incorporate nicely there. And this step just evenly spreads out the dry ingredients here, a bit like that gas explosion spread Jimmy Kipling's kitchen contents around our cul-de-sac. And once that's done, we're going to go in with 100 grams of softened butter, because that's going to give our pastry a lovely, lovely crunch. And then we're going to blend all that up in our machine there until it's like about the texture of breadcrumbs. That's what you're looking for, really. You can do this with your hands if you haven't got a machine. Just rub all the butter in with your scratching sticks. It's near enough. And then when that's done, we're going to add an egg to this. I mean, you can add 2 egg yolks if you want to be really professional. But, a whole egg's near enough. It doesn't make that much of a difference. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of lemon juice here, because the acid in the lemon juice makes this pastry dead tender. And then I like to give it a bit of a stir up here in the machine, just to bring all those wet and dry ingredients together before I'm going to mix it up properly. And if you are using a machine, just this step needs to be done very carefully. Nice slow bursts in your machine, just to bring it together. You don't want to whip it up or anything silly like that. And if you're using your hands to do this, bring it all together with your fingers, but don't work it too much, all right? Just be nice and gentle with it, yeah? Hey, you're getting a right pie crust masterclass here, aren't you? I reckon you deserve it, because, you're brilliant for coming and watching my video, aren't you? And I just want to say thank you by just going into a little bit of extra detail for you know what I mean? So I've avoided cutting my fingers off on the blades there, and I'm just going to put a bit of flour on my surface, get that pastry out there, and bring it together a little bit by giving it a little bit of a knead. I don't want to mash it about too much, I'm going to be relatively gentle with it, but I want to give it a little bit of a leathering about, because it'll make it a little bit easier to work with later on when I come to roll it out and put it in my pan. And once I've given that a bit of a knead, I'm going to put it in some cling film, and I'm going to put it in the fridge for half an hour, and that's going to let it relax. It's going to let the gluten in the flour relax a little bit, and it's going to chill it down a little bit, which will make it even easier to handle later on when I come to roll it out. And now it's had a chance to chill, we're going to get it back out of the fridge. And I'm going to put plenty of flour on my work surface here in preparation for rolling out this pastry. And let's bring the pan in here to show you. Pretty standard size. Ha! I salvaged this from Jimmy Kipling's garden when the ground floor of his house went tits up. That was an absolute score, that like. So let's roll this pastry out now, eh? Keep turning it and rolling it and turning it, and keep adding a little bit of flour if you need to. Try to make sure it's not sticking while you're doing this. And hey, while you're here, you might as well give us a like for this video, eh? And hey, if you like my content, you might as well subscribe as well. And don't forget, you can always have a little comment in the comments below there if you want to find out how Jimmy's getting on, or any other reason that you might want to comment, just to say hello or whatever. You can even use the space down there for your shopping lists if you like, if you haven't got any paper at hand and a pen. So we want to be rolling this out big enough that it's going to go in our pan, and we also want to allow for the size of the pan, so make sure that it's big enough, the pastry. Bring your pan in to compare it. And when you're happy with it, I reckon the best way to get this into your pan is to fold it up, just like this. Brush off any excess flour if you need to, then pick it up and then just plonk it in your pan and unfold it again. And I reckon this is a lot easier than rolling it around your rolling pin and then trying to roll it into your pan. You have a lot more control this way, I reckon. It's up to you, you can try whichever technique works for you. But if you've never done this before, don't panic if it all starts to fall apart on you, because it probably will the first time. It's quite difficult to get your head around at first, this like. I mean, what if you're dead dozy and rip it like this? Don't worry. Just mash it all in with your hands into the shape of your pan. Use those fingers to make it all even. It doesn't matter if it takes you half an hour, does it? And then just make sure that it's all nice and tidy. Nobody's going to see it, either, because the filling's going to go on top. But you'll definitely blow people's minds with this. I mean, who makes tarts? You know what I mean? No, hardly anybody makes tarts, because they're dead difficult, aren't they? I mean, there's the rip, look. Just mash it down. Tidy it all around. Push those corners in, at the bottom of your pan. And you can take off the excess here with your rolling pin. It's always difficult for me to get the rolling pin, because our lass just loves chasing me around the house, hitting me with it for no reason. So I better make good use of it here. And what do you do if you rip through it, like that fire ripped through Jimmy's kitchen? Like this here. Nightmare. Doesn't matter. Just use a bit of your excess to fill in the gaps. You'll have a bit spare if you have a nightmare with it around the sides or the edges, wherever. Use a bit of your excess, don't you? Ha! I bet Jimmy Kipling wished he'd had a bit of excess on his buildings insurance, like, and his contents insurance. He's in a homeless shelter now. His house is just a burnt out shell. Don't feel sorry for him, though, because, like I said, his politics are somewhere to the right of Hitler's taxi driver, so fuck that guy. So now the pastry's all rolled out and we've boxed it all off, we're going to prick the bottom of it with a fork. Make sure it doesn't puff up in the oven when we blind bake this. Don't go all the way through it, though. Just prick it about halfway through your pastry if you can. And if you go too far and you go all the way through, it doesn't matter. Just press it down with your finger again and then just prick it again about halfway through. Can't go wrong if you really like. And we're going to blind bake this now. So get it on your baking tray. You're going to bake this at the bottom of the oven, 160 degrees fan setting for about 25 minutes. And I've already put me baking paper in there with me dried beans on there. They're chickpeas, actually. And I use these like a few times over and over again. You can use them because they're not going to burn. And after, like I say, about 25 minutes, you can take it out, take the beans out, and then you want to put it back in the oven for about 6 or 7 minutes to dry it out a little bit more. And then you want it to fully cool down when you've taken it out of the oven for the second time, because then we're going to brush it with egg white. We're going to seal that tart base now to make sure it stays dry. And you will have a spare yolk here. Keep that yolk. That's going to go in the filling. We're not going to waste that. Nothing gets wasted here. And we put that back in the oven for about 6 or 7 minutes to set the egg white. And that's going to make sure our tart base is ready for the filling. And it's going to be absolutely awesome at the end. Nice and dry and crisp. And you can see how that's shining now, and that looks pretty watertight, that like. So we're going to get our jam ready now. We're going to put some jam on that. But like I said, the tart base has got to cool down fully. Let's get our jam in. I'm doing raspberry jam here. I'm going to sieve it to get all the seeds out. Make sure it's proper tickety-boo-like, and then we'll give it a good stir. And then we're ready to put it into our tart base. So spoon it in. You need about 4 heaped tablespoons of jam here. And now the hard bit's done, let's do the filling. And the filling is the easy bit, like, so let's get a bowl in. And we're going to go in with 100 grams of all-purpose flour and a good pinch of salt. And we're going to add 200 grams of ground almonds to that. Yep, standard Frangipane filling this. It's a French staple. Although I'm sure I used to go out with a lass who drove a Nissan Frangipane. And that's the dry ingredients done, so put them to one side. We're going to get another bowl and we're going to lash 150 grams of softened butter into there. And add 125 grams of caster sugar to that. And we're going to whisk it all up until it's lightened in colour and it's all fluffy and light. I'm using a hand mixer here, but you can use a bowl and your spoon and your big strong arm if you fancy a workout. So let's gather everybody around here. We've got 2 eggs and that spare yolk from earlier, remember? And we'll add these one at a time with a spoonful of our dry mix to stop this from splitting when we whisk it all up. And just keep adding them yolks and dry ingredients, giving it a good whisk each time and fully incorporate that. We're beating some air into this now. We've got no baking powder in this or anything like that, so we need these eggs to be nicely whisked up so that it just adds a bit of lightness to the Frangipane. Now, Frangipane is normally quite dense compared to a cake, for example. I mean, you don't want it to be too dense. You don't want to be like Jimmy Kipling. He's dense, isn't he? I mean, deserves everything he gets, that knobhead, like. Anywho, I've got 150 millilitres of cow juice on the right here, and I'm going to give me dry ingredients a good stir. And now I'm going to add my dry ingredients and this milk to my butter and sugar and egg mix in 2 stages. And after each stage, I'm going to give it a good stir up to fully incorporate each time. Make sure that's all fully mixed in. And we're nearly there now with this, like, so you already want to have your oven preheated, 180 degrees, no fan. But we're not quite ready because there are a couple more little things. A tablespoon of lemon juice is going to go in here. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of the juice from the glacé cherries that I'm using to put on the top of this Cherry Bakewell tart. Because that liquid's dead tasty, you know. It's like all almondy and essency and almondy and essency. And then we give it one last final stir up to incorporate all those ingredients in there. And now we can bring our base back in with our jam on it. And we're going to dollop our mixture on in different areas rather than just pour it all in. Because if you pour it all into the middle, it'll push all that jam out to the edges. And you want to keep the jam as even as possible. So dollop it all on, spread it out. And if you want to be a right teacher's pet, just get like an offset spatula or something else and just smooth it all out nice and even on top there before it goes into the oven. And then you can sprinkle some sliced almonds if you've got them on top. I do recommend this stage. It does add a little bit of extra texture. Sprinkle them all on top there. And then it's ready to go in the oven. Like I said, 180 degrees Celsius, no fan, at the bottom of the oven. Give it about 30 minutes and you'll know when it's done because it'll spring back when you press it on top. And a knife or a toothpick inserted will come out of that clean. And I'm going to make this absolutely world class by brushing it with some warmed apricot jam. That'll give it a lovely little sheen on top. And we need to finish this off with some icing. And I'm making my icing here with some powdered sugar and some more of this cherry liquid to give it that almondy, essencey flavour. Lovely. I'm making it nice and thick so I can pipe it on with a little piping bag of my nozzle there. I mean, I didn't go to design school, so, I don't know if this is any good, but I'm just sort of just doing lines, You'll probably be able to do this better than I can. And then I'm going to put some cherries on the top. So let's get them in here, and you can sort of plonk them on top where the icing is so that they stick. I mean, they'll probably be all right anyway because of that jam on the top there. And that's it. You are done and dusted with your Cherry Bakewell tart, better than Mr. Kipling. Let's have a look at it. Here it comes. Here it is. Let's have a look at that base, eh? Lovely and dry and crisp, as promised. I'm going to take a piece of this now, and then I'm going to get all of this whipped into me because it's just tasty as this. And just make sure that you don't blow your house up when you're making this. I would take a piece of this to Jimmy, but he's busy guarding a statue of somebody that he's never heard of for reasons that he doesn't understand. So I think I'm just going to cram all of this into me on my own and not talk to that daft get anymore. But I'm dead glad that you came by and shared this moment with me, lads and lasses. And I hope you come round again and see us. So until then, see you later, mates. Ta-ra.